What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, today we're back going to be talking about Survivor Season 36, the penultimate episode before the finale of Survivor Season 36 Ghost Island. So, my name is Rachel.
And I'm Alyssa, and this episode made me want to die. Like, oh!
I agree. I think it's just so frustrating. Like these past few episodes, so many people, or at least Laurel and Jonathan, realize that they cannot win against Dominic and Wendell, yet nobody can get enough numbers to actually fix this issue. So every single time they string us along with, oh, maybe a big move will happen, but then it never happens.
I know. It especially annoys me with Laurel because she literally says the words, I cannot win against them, but they're my friends. And I'm like, them being your friends has nothing to do with it whatsoever.
Yeah, and then I think from a viewer standpoint, it's just watching these people realize that they're basically letting these other two guys 100% win the game by not even trying to throw votes their way, not making them flush the idol, not even trying to get them to be voted out in any sense. They're basically just give them $1 million right now, give them each $500,000 because they're both going to probably go far into this game with one more episode left. I really just don't understand. It seems like a pattern this season has been everyone, wants to get the easy vote. Let's stay Navidi strong. Nobody is actually willing to make a move against anything, but let's go where the majority is. And Wendell and Dom have the majority. They've been keeping the minority silent, been keeping them in line, and they've been doing an amazing job with that. But it's just frustrating seeing these people realize that they're on a sinking ship, but are not willing to do anything about it.
I feel like every episode this season has felt like the same episode. Because in the first half of the game, it's just Dominic and Chris whining about each other. And then in the second half of the game, it's everyone being like, oh, Dom and Wendell are going far in this game. Dom and Wendell are controlling this game and not doing anything about it.
So I wrote this down in my notes, and I'm like, now we know why the Dominic Chris feud was shoved down our throats at the beginning of the season, because I feel like editors didn't have any other stuff to show us, but it's like, why not show us Chelsea then? Why do you have to shove this shit down our throats so much? But like they keep showing us Chris and Dom, like that whole feud all pre-merge, every single episode post-merge after Chris got voted out was like, let's make a big move against Wendell or Dom. Oh, it's not the right time. Let's just vote with the majority. Ha ha. And now it's like, shoot, it's too late. The majority is Dom and Wendell. There's nowhere else to go. And it's like, maybe this season it seems like it's just boring that no one is willing to make these moves. So every single episode that we're seeing every single week is them doing the same things over and over. Okay, Desiree wanted to revolt against the leadership. Okay, she's voted out. Michael has been wanting to vote against them. Then he's voted out. Like, it's always targeted, I feel like, and then it's just a circle. We haven't seen anything different.
Yeah, and it's like, I'd be willing to bet that Jonathan is going out next episode because he dared to think about, voting them out. What annoys me about Jonathan and Laurel is that, Jonathan keeps being like, oh yeah, let's do something, and Laurel keeps being like, nah. And it's like, Laurel, honey, get your shit together.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, no one ever wants to get on board with people trying to make the move, it seems like, and maybe everyone is like, okay, good, Laurel's playing for third place. You win more money by getting third place than you do by being on the jury, but for your Survivor experience, why play for third when you could be someone, I think, like Desiree or Jonathan tried this week? Why not try to make the big move and get voted out knowing that you did all you can, or just be fine with, okay, I'll take third place, I'll be the GOAT to the end, but at least I make like $25,000.
The thing is, I feel like it's one of those things where you don't want to be a sellout. Like,
yes, it's like playing Big Brother to be second place and still getting like whatever 100,000 or whatever the prize is.
yeah, it bothers me. I really hope that they're not like thinking about that when they're on the island, because like that your goal should be to have the best Survivor experience, you know? I really wish that Jonathan would have like just been like, bye Laurel, and like not told her what his plans were, because I feel like it would have been more successful if Dom and Wendell, like, Jonathan played this all wrong, I think, as far as like he like basically told Dom and Wendell that he's going to start playing against them, and he was like, I think my truth bombs are working for me, and I was like, I think they're not.
Yeah, like, okay, going to Jonathan, I guess. We'll go back to reward Ghost Island immunity, because I think those do play a part into what we see this episode. Jonathan, yes, he's been realizing this since the merge. Laurel just keeps him in line every single episode. I'm like, okay, Jonathan, be a free bird. Like you mentioned this episode, you might have to play for yourself. And then Jonathan is realizing this episode, okay, yes, the middle isn't going to make it to the end. And he is willing to maybe play the game without Laurel. And then he has the plans, maybe making it a 4-3 vote against Dom and Wendell this week. And nope, that didn't work out either, which I don't know. I think it's a nice try, like trying to pit Dom and Wendell against one another. But I think the way that Jonathan went about it was just poorly managed.
Yeah, I think that the better way to do it would have been like, I think he kind of tried to tell Wendell like, oh, Dom will beat you, but he didn't do it in a very smart way, I don't think. And I think like if one of them is going to turn on the other, I honestly think Dominic would be the one to cut Wendell's throat and not the other way around. So I feel like it would have been better to go to Dominic and somehow make it so Wendell was a threat to him instead of like, I think that you just really need to make it a Dom versus Wendell situation somehow. And Jonathan tried, but he didn't do it with like enough finesse, I don't think. So just because Dom and Wendell are so tight that they like will talk to each other before immediately assuming that like, oh, this is the truth. And the rumors need to be planted in such a way that like they can't be denied.
Yeah, sort of like, yeah, just more finesse, I think, with the entire thing. Everyone realizes, okay, I'm not going to rally the troops against voting Dominic or Wendell out this week. We've seen it hasn't worked for the past 2 or 3 weeks. Everyone's been trying to get the numbers. That hasn't worked. Let's go plan B. If you pit them against each other, then people will want to follow one of the sides and make another war like a Chris versus Dom feud, that kind of thing. But yeah, like you're saying, I think just more secrecy with it. And I think next week, if we don't see Dom or Wendell cut the other one's throat, it's going to be very difficult, I think, at Final Tribal for people to maybe like distinguish their games. I feel like they're so similar, and just like Jonathan, the way he handled everything was pretty poor. I think he became so unpredictable, I feel like, and that's what freaks people out on Survivor, is just being erratic and being unpredictable. And then just like saying, if you're gonna blindside me, like let me know, and straight up causing beef right at tribal council in front of everyone. I feel like good for Jonathan, like kudos for trying to make a move, because for sure we know Laurel ain't making any moves. So I think good for Jonathan wanting to do that, but I feel like people on the jury don't respect Jonathan enough for him to win.
Yeah, I think Jonathan tried real hard, and like I give him props for that, just because I feel like the main reason like it hasn't worked for other people is because they haven't like gone all in, and they haven't like dragged other people along. And another thing I kind of wish Jonathan had done would be to give Laurel like a smackdown and be like, listen, honey, we can't be wishy-washy anymore. You're gonna come with me or we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to be like us anymore. And I feel like if Donathan had given her like an ultimatum, like you either get to work with me or you get to work with Dom and Wendell, I feel like Laurel might have chosen Donathan just because they've been so close from the beginning.
Or Donathan can tell Laurel, like, girl, we're not winning, and Laurel realizes that. So I feel like, how do you talk someone out of their steadfast ways into changing their ways when Laurel has even said, like, she's not going to win against them, but she's, like, content with that. She doesn't want to vote them out this episode, and it's just frustrating. And I think going into the reward challenge, like, it was really cool. I really liked it. This like ball thing on the larger scale, since we've seen it on the small scale. So I really like the large scale. And like, of course, Dom and Wendell win. Like, how is that even possible? Everything that is going their way is going their way. And they pick Laurel to go with. And I'm like, okay, that's a good like idea. That's a good choice, because they're always so wishy-washy about Laurel, like, oh, actually being on board, and them picking her to go on the reward with them just makes her more like indebted to them again. She's like, oh, these guys are my buddies, I can't vote them out, haha. And then I think picking Sebastian for Ghost Island was very interesting, because I was like, oh, they're going to pick Donathan, right? Like, that's the fourth person in their foursome. But then they pick Sebastian. So I'm like, okay, they must be super close. And it's something that we're not seeing on the show. Like, why are we not seeing this relationship forming? And then that sort of drives a rift. And then Donathan feels left out.
I feel like when all of the partners were chosen, like, they were such obvious pairings that I was like, come on. Like, I didn't really like the idea of picking team captains for something as small as this, because it's like, you're not really being a captain. You're just picking one other person. But that's besides the point. I feel like their main objective in sending Seabass to Ghost Island was probably just so Kellen didn't get to go. And I think that they probably said, who is not Kellen? And Sebastian's name was the first name that came up.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, it's just sort of confusing because we aren't seeing a lot of the Sebastian big dog relationship, but like we see them sitting at camp talking together. They went on the family visit together, so maybe they bonded a ton at the family visit. And so Sebastian's sort of in with them. I feel like Sebastian going final three over Laurel final three is a good trade-off for having Laurel not go final three, because no one will pick Sebastian to win the game when he's sitting in between Dominic and Wendell. Like, no one would do that in a million years. So that would honestly be a pretty good goat to the end if something happened and Laurel isn't going final three. And I feel like picking Sebastian for Ghost Island, that's probably someone who the big dogs can control fairly easily. And Sebastian is probably the one person out there that will probably play the advantage wrong, because he doesn't seem that smart. But yes, play the advantage wrong.
I feel like it's not that difficult for people to be playing advantages wrong, though, because we've seen, like, what, one advantage played correctly this season?
I mean, depends what's played correctly. People played them. Didn't go their way, but they played them.
Well, then that's not playing it correctly, because it didn't go their way.
I guess. I feel like the thing with Ghost Island is, I feel like to be a cursed item, you have to play it in a way that gets you voted out because of playing it. So I feel like, yes, Kellen played her thing incorrectly a few episodes ago, but she wasn't voted out like, oh, haha, you used your thing wrong and now you're voted out. You didn't play your idol. So I feel like Chris's thing is cursed, whereas Kellen's, it's like she didn't play it well. She didn't read the room well. So I don't really feel like that's cursed.
But she didn't reverse the curse either, I don't think.
Yes, first time, I guess, Michaela's thing, it'd be cursed. But Kellen not playing it correctly, like, not not playing an idol correctly. I feel like it's not cursed. You weren't voted out because you misplayed the idol. It's not cursed. But like Chris didn't play the idol. He was voted out with it in his pocket. It's a cursed thing.
Yeah, I just the definition of cursed is like very up in the air, I think. But I agree with what you said about Sebastian not being likely to like play the advantage well. But I also think it would be really funny if Sebastian's like one shining moment this season was like accidentally getting Dom or Wendell out by playing his advantage. Because I feel like Sebastian could totally do that, like accidentally make a power play just because he's so effing oblivious.
Yeah, I feel like give the dumbest person the secret advantage right before Final 5. Great. Great strategy if that's like what they were trying to do. Sebastian, who knows? He just says the weirdest things. He talked about the weird fish at Ghost Island. And I feel like with Ghost Island also, like, I feel like something is probably going to be at Ghost Island. These last few times that it's in play right before Final 5, last few people you sort of want to go because you'll probably be guaranteed an advantage like last week with Wendell. But then I feel like with Ghost Island this season, we haven't seen as much strategy as we could have been seeing with it. Like right now, it's just an island giving out advantages willy-nilly left, right, and 75% chance odds. Like you're basically going to win that unless you're so unlucky that you pick the one wrong thing. But otherwise, Ghost Island is basically handing people free stuff.
I feel like one of the things is with Ghost Island is it's like, unlike finding a regular idol, people all know if you've been to Ghost Island, so they can like treat you with suspicion, which is different from like you might be able to go out and find an idol without anyone even knowing that you've been looking. But I do wish that they had done something different with the mechanism of like it has to be unanimous or they draw rocks, just because I feel like there was too much rock drawing like earlier in the season when the tribes were really big, because it's like getting 8 people to make a unanimous decision is just you're not gonna do it. So I wish that they had done that differently, because then I feel like it would be less of a handout and more of a strategy thing.
Yeah, and like we've talked about that in previous podcasts, like force these people to make the decision, make them pick people like for the loved ones visit, cause some drama at the camp. Like here, everyone's just, oh, let's draw rocks. Oh, let's vote this person out because we don't like them. Oh, majority does this, so minority is going to come along and vote this way also. Why is there no big decisions being made? Why are people not getting more upset, I feel like, about being voted out? Everyone is sort of being like, oh, let me put my hat down. I'm getting voted out tonight. That's all I can do. Like, why not blow shit up at tribal council? Doesn't really make sense, but yes.
Yeah, I feel like if I was someone like Kellen and I thought that like I might be going home, I just try to like stir the pot as much as possible.
Yeah. Throw some people under the bus.
Yeah. I think that it would be interesting to see Ghost Island come back for a different season with like the mechanisms tweaked. Wow, I couldn't get that word out. Tweaked a little. And I also think it would be interesting if Ghost Island was the only source of advantages. Like if there wasn't any hidden immunity idols anywhere and it was just you go to Ghost Island or you get nothing.
Yeah, and I feel like something else is, why are they repeating something from earlier in this very same season of Survivor? I was just like, what the heck? Why would you have the Game Changers thing that Kellen played earlier this season and then reuse it this episode? It really doesn't make sense. There are so many things in Survivor that could be, oh, cursed. And Kellen's thing, if you're going on what my definition of cursed isn't cursed. She just played it incorrectly. Why reuse this vote when there's so many other cursed items that Survivor could be sticking in there. Why not stick Steven Fishback's one from Second Chance? Why not have, last season from HHH, Mike and Lauren's Shell idol? Even though they didn't see season 35 because they're out there, like, why? Why not have these new things rather than keep on bringing up game changers and reuse something that was already on this season? It seems like a cheap shot.
I feel like they just didn't want to keep showing clips from different seasons because they realized how much screen time it was taking.
Which they wouldn't even have decided that, like, during the show. So I'm just like, why? Why pick this? Why not bring back Chris's idol, since that was actually played incorrectly? He didn't actually use his idol when he had the chance. Why not bring that back? Who cares if Sebastian has an extra vote? Like, I don't know. I just really wish, why not have Fishback's vote out there? Why not
just like Fishback? That's the real thing.
There's a lot of other things. I really don't see why they have to bring back Kellen's thing. That was from this season.
I don't know either, but
let it sit on Ghost Island for like 6 years. Why not bring back something from like Fans versus Favorites or other things? I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's just, I do wonder how they picked all of these advantages, and I wonder if it's maybe just they couldn't get the original owners to give it to them. Like, because they're all about, this is the authentic blah, blah, blah that so-and-so played. So maybe they've run out of, like, authentic things, so they have to reuse stuff so they don't have to beg people for more.
Yeah. I feel like the payout would probably be pretty good. They'd be like, I'll give you X amount of money, let me reuse your stick kind of thing. I feel like, because it is their memento. It's not like they're, right? I feel like they're being paid.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay, immunity challenge. I like the 4x4 slide puzzle. We'll have to do a tutorial on it.
Yeah. The 4x4 slide puzzle is so much more difficult than the 3x3, though, just because there's more pieces. Wow. With this challenge, I felt so bad for Angela, but also she was being, like, so, like, stupid.
Angela's just irrelevant. I think with the immunity challenge was the whole Wendell winning immunity, Laurel winning immunity fiasco. Wendell didn't call Jeff, and then he's like, 100% I had it before you, which is like sort of awkward because I feel like you let Laurel win this, and now she has the necklace, but I feel like if it comes up later, you can always discredit her. Like, oh, I actually won that challenge. I let her have that win kind of thing. It would have been funny if he was voted out tonight, though. Like, haha, you didn't contest the Jeff ruling, and then you're voted out that night. But I feel like for Wendell, not causing a big scene or being angry or super butthurt about Laurel winning the immunity was the right way to do it.
Yeah, I feel like the thing is with Wendell and Laurel, like, they literally had video footage. I'm sure it wouldn't have been hard for someone to be like, okay, let's play back the footage so we can see. But I do think that Wendell choosing, like, not to contest it was a good move, especially because that was part of the reason why Laurel was like, oh, I shouldn't vote him out tonight.
Yeah, I really thought Laurel was just gonna give him the immunity necklace at Tribal Council. Laurel is just so loyal. And like we said before, beginning of the episode, she's like 7 is the last chance to go after one of the big guys, and I feel like this was the last time. That's what we've been saying the past few weeks. But in the next 2 votes until 5, I really don't see an uprising against them if it hasn't happened this far into the game, even though she freaking says she can't win against them. And it's like, okay, girl, you're playing Survivor, and you're like, oh, it almost doesn't feel right to vote Wendell and send him home tonight because he could have won the immunity. Like, you're about to let him have $1 million when you could have voted him out for being too nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just also feel like that would have been a move that everyone would be like, this was ballsy and I respect it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like, you can't really backstab your friend like that night. I feel like that would have caused a lot of heat from Wendell at the final tribal council with the Socratic seminar style. He would have roasted Laurel if she made final 3 also. I feel like doing it that way would burn a lot of bridges between them. But still, why saying that out loud just makes you sound more like a goob. She's like, oh, I can't vote Wendell now because he basically gave me immunity. Like, technically, yes, you can still vote him out. Might not be the best option given all that's happened, but you can still do it. It's Survivor. Backstab him. You should have backstabbed him weeks ago.
Yeah, this never should have been an issue because Wendell should have not been there to compete in this challenge.
Exactly. I mean, she's too nice, and maybe all of these people are too nice and they're just letting the people Dom and Wendell get to the end because that's who they think are most deserving to win the game of the people left so far. But like, Dom and Wendell sent people home who were crying. Kellen voted out Stephanie and them when they were crying. Like, they all had in post episode stuff, like Kellen and Stephanie were super close. You can be close on like a friendship level, maybe not a game level, still backstab them. Laurel, I guess, doesn't have good friend versus game management and she isn't willing to cross those lines, or maybe she just really wants to play for 3rd place. But we'll see, because I feel like right now, I don't know, I could see Sebastian as final 3 with Dom and Wendell.
I could see them bringing him along just because Sebastian would just be like, I would kill to see what people would like ask Sebastian at Final Tribal. Like, Seabass, do you still consider this game to be like a piece of banana Laffy Taffy? Like,
Cringe.
I love that guy. He's just so like, I love him.
He's so weird. I feel like for Dom and Wendell, next episode, one of them needs to pull the rug out from the other. And yeah, like you were saying earlier, Dom has alluded to voting Wendell out and like having that on his radar. And I think this needs to happen next episode, or else if they both go to the end, haha, buddy buddy, then I feel like that'll just cap off the season as sort of a meh season, because I feel like if both of them go to the end, it's really a toss-up between the two, and it's really what the jury feels like they want to vote for, whether it is like, oh, gameplay, or oh, who's nicer, or oh, who do I relate with more. That's really hard to gauge from our point of view, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like with Survivor, since like we only see 40 minutes out of 72 hours of footage, it's always like we can make guesses based on like what the editors think is important, but it doesn't give us a lot of stuff, especially because once someone gets voted out, they get their like clip at Ponderosa, and that's really all we see of them after that. So unless they say while they're in the game, like, oh, I'm going to vote for people who do this, this, and this, we don't really know.
Yeah, so I feel like with that, it's really a toss-up between the two. I do feel like either Wendell or Dom is going to win the game next week, and I don't know. Either one of them winning, I feel like I'd be happy.
Yeah, I think I'd be more upset if like Donathan won than if Wendell or Dom won, just because they honestly do deserve it, because they've smashed everyone else in this game.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, if one of them wants to guarantee themselves a win rather than having a toss-up kind of thing, they need to turn on each other. So do you want to go? We can go through and say who we think is going to be voted out 6, 5, 4, 3, and then win, I guess.
Let's go.
So 6, I have Donathan probably going home. I don't see why after this week and last week why you would really take him to the end of the game. I feel like he has a good story compared to someone like Sebastian, where Donathan can be like, oh, I've never gone outdoors before. I'm from the South. Like, me, my, mo. Like, this is all a great new experience for me. I'm the last Malolo standing kind of thing. Donathan, semi-likable, underdog. So I feel like you wouldn't want to bring him to the end for those reasons. I feel like if Donathan went to the end with like Angela and Seabass, maybe he can win. But yeah, I feel like at final 6, the big dogs really aren't going to be voting Laurel out because she's in with them. And why would you vote Sebastian or Angela out? Because they'd be great to bring with you to final tribal since they're also sort of duds.
Yeah, I agree that Donathan is going to be 6th place just because he's shown that he can be super paranoid and that he also wants to try to get Wendell and Dom out, so they're just not going to stand for that.
Yeah, and both Dom and Wendell have idols, so at least they're semi-safe at 6 and 5. So one of them is probably also going to win individual immunity because, like, who else is their competition? Angela's not doing anything. So one of them will probably win, then the other can use their idol kind of thing. And then at 5, one of them can probably win, then they'll use the other idol. Or maybe they'll play the idol for someone like Laurel, but I really don't see, like, Donathan, Angela, and Sebastian getting together for an uprising. Because it seems like this season a lot of people have ideas, but there's always just miscommunication or people aren't willing to work with other people to get things done.
Yeah, I really think it's like people aren't willing to work with each other. Like, I feel like people only want to make the big moves when they can take credit for it and be like, this is the move that I made, because they're all about like, oh, building resumes or whatever. And like, that's not a bad thing. But if no one is willing to like work with everyone else, then like, it doesn't matter if you have a good resume point if you're sitting next to Dom and Wendell.
Yeah, so I feel like at 5, either Angela goes home or maybe Dom or Wendell try to make a move on one another. I feel like if Dom or Wendell were going to make a move, fire challenge at 4 would be a little risky because if they send the person to fire, so if Wendell goes to fire and he ends up winning fire, that just looks so good for Wendell. So I feel like that'd be a little risky to leave it up to chance at a fire making challenge. And if you both, yeah, so that'd be a 4. At 5 here, Angela probably goes home or they make the move. I feel like Angela would be good because you aren't voting Laurel out. You'd keep Sebastian around because you can win against him. Angela has the good jury like story also, similar to Donathan, as like, oh, she's a military woman, she's a mom, she's the oldest person out there this season, she's made it to the end. Angela can sort of talk about, oh, coming into her own shell. As Chris was voted out, that could be like, oh, her turning point, she's been to Ghost Island. I feel like even though we haven't really seen a lot from Angela on TV, she could say those things at Final Tribal Council, and that could be scary if maybe she has a lot of jury sway. We don't really know, but maybe she does.
I think also one of the things is with Angela, like, even though we haven't seen a lot from her, like, I think that she's had conversations with other people, I think. And like, I would be willing to say that like she's kind of like the mom figure that people would want to vote for just because it's like she's like a good person, I think. Like, even though we haven't seen a lot from her, from what we have seen, she just seems like really badass. So, yeah. I also agree with that, though. You're just saying everything I want to say.
Yay. And I don't know. I feel like with Angela and Donathan, you really can't have them going further. It gets more down to, oh, the person who wins immunity gets to decide certain things, who goes home, who does this and that, because I feel like with Donathan and Angela, they sort of, maybe more so Donathan, but they sort of have minds of their own. So Dom and Wendell can't really control Donathan if he isn't willing to be controlled, whereas that's why you keep Sebastian around. Give him the extra vote at tribal council, because Dom and Wendell can basically tell Sebastian who to vote for, and I feel like Sebastian would do it.
Yeah, I feel like Seabass, like, he doesn't really have a lot of independent thought in this game. So.
Unless it's about Fish or Laffy Taffy. So, yeah. Fire challenge at Final Four. Either I feel like it's going to be a Laurel Seabass fire challenge, or if Dom Wendell wanted to still implode on one another and try to get each other out, I feel like one of them could send the other person to fire, but sending like Dom or Wendell to fire against Laurel or Sebastian, I feel like that's just giving the winner of the fire challenge, if Wendell wins or if Dom wins fire, that just gives that person so much talking and kudos right before final tribal council. I feel like that's even more risky than just bringing them to the end with you. I feel like it's too late if they haven't made a move on one another yet, that they sort of need to go to final tribal together. Or maybe Dom and Wendell will go to fire against each other, but I feel like you made it that far. Why risk it for a fire challenge when you could just leave it up to the jury?
I think the only reason I could see Angela not going in 5th place would be if Dom or Wendell wanted to use her as like the opponent in the fire challenge. Because like I think that Angela could probably beat either of them in the fire challenge. So like say Dom wins individual immunity, he might be thinking next tribal council it's going to be the fire challenge. Angela can beat Wendell in fire and keep Angela and kick Seabass or whomever off so that Angela and Wendell can compete in fire and Wendell gets booted. But like you said, if they do win, then that's like a good resume point, especially because that's the last thing that the jury sees of them before final tribal.
Yeah, that's what we were saying. Like if Wendell wins fire, I feel like that looks so good. And that's what we were saying with Millennials versus Gen X. If they ended up going to fire with the Adam David vote, whoever wins that basically is going to be winning the game, because if Adam and David went to fire, if David won, he basically wins the game against Ken and Hannah. Adam won, same thing that we saw how it actually played out, but it just brings so much more like kudos to you. You fought for your life, you're still here. These other two people, one person basically just gets brought to the end by the person who wins immunity, like we saw last season with Ryan. And I feel like that just looks so bad in front of a jury. You almost want to not get chosen to be brought to the end by the person who wins immunity. You almost want to be the person going to fire if you know you can, if you think you can probably win the fire challenge. It just looks so much better. And it's just risky though too, because I feel like Dom and Wendell, if they do go head to head, or if one of them goes head to head with someone like Angela, it's just so risky. You never know what will happen. You could lose $1 million to Angela by losing the fire challenge. I feel like might as well be safe than sorry. You made it this far as a duo. Leave it up to fate and the jury deciding, which is sort of sucky for them too, because it will be more of a toss-up if Dom and Wendell do go final 3 together. But if they're sitting at final 3 with either Laurel or Seabass, I really don't see Laurel or Sebastian getting like votes. So it's really going to be a split between those two.
Yeah, the thing is, like, the thing about Dom and Wendell is that even if they like pick the other person to like drag along to them, that still just kind of shows like they're overly dependent on each other, you know? And I feel like one of the reasons that like it would look bad is because like if you didn't do anything to deserve to be there in the first place, like I feel like people already saw Ryan last season as like riding Chrissy's coattails before she dragged him to the finals with her. But I feel like the biggest thing would be you don't want something happening with like the Devin Ben situation where Devin was like so confident, like, yeah, I'm going to win this. And then he ended up losing, you know?
Yeah, so fire challenge, it is very risky, I feel like, to have your whole $1 million sort of riding on whether someone, oh, wins the fire challenge or, oh, loses the fire challenge. So it seems, I don't know, maybe we haven't heard a lot of it on the episode because people, they have to be thinking that far ahead, I feel like, but maybe it's not going to be such a big deal that we're making it out to be. And, oh, third person wins is not going to be a huge thing. So we haven't heard any strategy that these people are thinking that revolve around it. So maybe that's the reasoning. Or, yeah, I don't know. We're just in the dark about a lot of things. I feel like we haven't heard from a lot of people, don't really know where things are lying. But we have the general idea that one of these two is winning Survivor next week, and we can just be done with it.
Yeah, I think this has been kind of like a good palate cleanser season where it's like not super crazy. Like the winner has been kind of obvious from the beginning. Like really the only way this season could be bad would be if someone who's not Wendell or Dom wins, because then you're just like, this entire season was a waste of my time.
No, Alyssa, yes, 100%. I think next week everyone is so prepared for like, oh, a Dom Wendell win next week that if we see anything but, people are going to be angry. Like, watch Jonathan stroll up in there and somehow win everything. That would just be like, what the hell was this editing the entire season then? We were meant to like Wendell, and he's super likable. Dom's super likable, and then you have the crazy underdog. I don't know. You saw that article I sent you, though, right, for the theme for next season?
Yeah.
That's a hot mess, too. We will have to talk about that in a video. I don't even know. I need to research some religion because, like, that I don't know. That's just a stupid theme.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that this season will just like, it's not going to probably be a great ending, but I'm just hoping for an okay ending, you know?
I want the predictable ending. I will be happy. Like, Dom and Wendell, they're great at keeping the minority silent. They've done amazing, like, control of their people so far. It's not like that they have, like, it's not like that they're bad Survivor players. It's just that coming across on television when it's something like this, it's not that interesting for viewers, I feel like. But Dom and Wendell are really both deserving winners. So either way, I feel like it'll be an end to this season that people will be happy with.
Yeah, I'm just worried, like you said, that like Jonathan or someone is going to end up winning, because then, yeah. But hopefully that's not what's going to happen. But we'll have to see next week. Finale. Exciting.
Yes, super exciting. Both Alyssa and I will be done with our sophomore years of college. I'm back home. If you saw last week, my room was all